I grew up in Roswell, New Mexico, which as all of you know from your laughter, has something to do with the UFO bit. And I was a senior in high school, or getting ready to be a senior in high school, in July 1947, where the so-called Roswell incident took place. I didn't think much of it at that time. My people were reasonably successful cattle people, and we had farm machinery dealerships and ranches and farms, and knew everybody in the whole Pecos Valley, with my grandfather being the patriarch of the family and his sons, my father and uncles, managing the businesses. So we knew everybody in the whole area of up and down the Pecos Valley, including some people at what now is Walker Air Force Base, which was the Air Force base associated with the Roswell incident. And Jesse Marcel, the major from the Air Force Base, who was the first officer on site. Well, we also had a friend who was a major in the administration at the same base, who happened to be one of my sources on all of this. Anyhow, I didn't think a lot about that at that point in time. I was too busy being a kid and getting ready to go off to school. And it appeared in the Roswell Daily Record one day, and I still have copies of all of this, that a UFO had crashed, or an alien spacecraft had crashed not too far away. And the next day it came out, the Roswell Daily Record corrected it and said, at least they thought they corrected it, under government requirements to say no, it was really a balloon, a weather balloon that had crashed. And so one here today, gone tomorrow was the story of UFOs. Now, the interesting point, to jump ahead a little bit, over the years, the story of what it was that happened at Roswell has changed at least a dozen times since 1947. Now, if it were anything but a cover-up or what it was, one accurate story would have been sufficient. But in the cover-up stories have been numerous, half a dozen to a dozen in the last 60-some years. And that in itself should be enough evidence that something really went on. Anyhow, I didn't think a lot about that at that point, because I went off to college to get get an education, and then to start my life. And I wasn't going to be a farmer. I had hay fever, so I wasn't going to bale hay the rest of my life. When I came back from the moon, many of the old timers, what I called old timers in Roswell, who had been there at the time and involved. They were, some of them in the police force, the sheriff's department, some at the military base, some undertakers, some coffin makers. After I came back from space and was lecturing around and visiting back home, some of them came to me and pulled me aside and told me their story, that they had been shut up after the Roswell incident, and they were now older. They didn't want to take their story to the grave, and they wanted it out. And they figured I was trustworthy, since I was a local boy and been to the moon. It would be okay if I took their story. So I promised them I wouldn't tell their names, but I would carry their story forward. A few years ago, 10 years ago, I did take the story to the Pentagon. I did have a meeting with high-level intelligence people as Joint Chiefs of Staff. I did tell the story with a couple of other, with another naval officer and Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, if you've heard that name, and told my story of what I knew about the Roswell incident, and subsequently had it confirmed that it was true, and that the individual who I told this with had tried to get into it to find out personally about the information, and he was rejected, as many others have been rejected, to have first-hand knowledge of the cover-up. In any event, however, the fact that the Roswell incident was real has been confirmed.